I learned the meaning of silence the night my mother died. Not the peaceful kind, but the heavy one that presses against your chest until breathing feels like work. The hospital lights were too bright, the walls too white, and the words the doctor spoke were too final. I nodded as if I understood, as if my life hadn't just cracked down the middle. Outside, rain fell like the sky was trying to wash the city clean of sins it didn't want to remember. I walked home because I didn't want to sit still. Our apartment door creaked the same way it always had, but everything inside felt wrong, like the soul had been removed and only furniture remained. I sat on the floor, my back against the couch, holding my mother's old scarf. It still smelled like her, lavender and something warmer, something safe. I pressed it to my face and let myself break. That's when my phone vibrated. An unknown number, one message. Your life is about to change. Don't trust the man who says he's helping you. My heart skipped. Grief can make you imagine things, but this felt real, sharp, intentional. I typed back with shaking fingers. Who is this? Seen. No reply. I stared at the screen for a long time, then locked the phone and convinced myself it was a cruel coincidence. The world didn't need another mystery that night. I already had enough pain. The next morning, while carrying a box of my mother's belongings down the stairs, I nearly dropped everything. That's when she appeared, like timing itself had sent her. "Careful," she said softly, grabbing the box before it fell. Her name was Claire Bennett. Warm eyes, gentle smile, the kind of presence that didn't rush you. She lived across the street and volunteered at the community center. She didn't ask questions, she just helped. We talked while walking, small things at first, then real things. Loss has a way of opening doors between strangers. Over the next few days, she became a quiet constant. Coffee, walks, long conversations that stretched into the night. She listened like every word mattered, and after weeks of emptiness, that feeling alone was dangerous. I started sleeping again. Then the messages returned. She's not who you think she is. Anger flared this time. I blocked the number. I chose trust, because trust felt like the only thing keeping me human. That same week, a man approached me outside my office building. Expensive suit, calm voice, eyes that measured everything. "My name is Daniel Cross," he said. "I knew your mother." I felt my spine stiffened. "She was involved in something important," he continued, "something that got her killed." Those words changed everything. Daniel showed me documents, recordings, half-truths wrapped in concern. He said my mother had uncovered a powerful network laundering money through private security firms. She was trying to expose them. She didn't live long enough. "I'm here to help you finish what she started," he said. I went home shaken. Claire held me while I talked, her arms steady around my chaos. "I won't let anything happen to you," she whispered. For the first time since my mother's death, I believed someone. I didn't know then that love and danger had already become the same thing.
I didn't notice how deeply Daniel had entered my life until I realized I was planning my days around his instructions. He called it preparation, training, protection. I called it fear management, because every time he spoke, he reminded me of how fragile my existence had become. "Patterns matter," he told me one evening as we sat in his car, parked under a flickering streetlight. "People die because they believe they're safe." I nodded, absorbing his words like scripture. After my mother's death, certainty felt addictive. Claire hated these meetings. I could see it in the way her jaw tightened whenever Daniel's name came up. She never told me not to go. She never demanded explanations. Instead, she cooked dinner and waited for me, as if anchoring me to something normal might keep me from drifting too far. Sometimes, late at night when the city was quiet and honesty felt less dangerous, I'd ask her questions. "Do you ever feel like we're being watched?" I asked once. She froze for half a second, just half, but I noticed. "After loss," she said carefully, "the world feels louder, sharper." I accepted that answer because I wanted to. The next warning came as a voicemail, the same unknown number, a distorted voice this time. "He's using you, and she's lying better than you think." I deleted it. Love demands faith, and I was tired of doubting everything. Daniel escalated quickly. He gave me a burner phone, taught me how to spot tails, how to disappear in plain sight. He spoke about my mother like a hero, a martyr. Each story tightened the knot in my chest and sharpened my need for justice. "You're stronger than you know," he said. She knew it too. Claire and I grew closer in the middle of all this tension. Our love wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, intentional. She remembered how I took my coffee. I learned how to read her silences. Some nights we lay together without speaking, listening to each other breathe like that alone could keep the darkness away. But secrets have weight. One night, I woke to find her sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed, staring at the floor. "What's wrong?" I asked. She looked at me like she was memorizing my face. "If someone you loved lied to you to keep you alive, would you forgive them?" My heart skipped. "Why are you asking me that?" She shook her head, forcing a smile. "Just something I heard today." I pulled her close. I'd forgive anything that came from love. She held on to me like she was drowning. The warehouse by the river wasn't on any map Daniel had given me. That alone should have stopped me. Instead, curiosity dragged me there like a leash. I parked a block away and walked the rest, my footsteps swallowed by the wind. Light leaked through cracked windows. Voices echoed inside. I recognized them immediately. Claire. Daniel. "I can't keep doing this," Claire said, her voice strained. "He trusts me." "That's the point," Daniel replied coolly. "You're the only reason he hasn't run." "I promised we'd tell him the truth. When it was useful, not when it's dangerous." My vision blurred. The floor felt unstable beneath me. Every memory rewound, replayed through suspicion. Her kindness, her timing, her questions. I stepped back, my foot hitting loose metal. The sound cut through the night. Silence followed. Then Claire's voice, soft and terrified. "Ethan?" I ran. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I couldn't stay. My chest burned. My thoughts spiraled. Love turned into a blade, slicing through everything I thought was real. Daniel called. I ignored it. Claire texted. I deleted it. By sunrise, I was empty. I hid in my car watching the city wake up like nothing had happened. People laughed. Buses ran late. Life continued, indifferent to my collapse. That afternoon, a news alert flashed on my phone. A former executive tied to a private security firm was found dead, apparent suicide. Daniel texted one sentence. "This is what happens when people talk." Fear settled into my bones. This wasn't about justice. This was about control. That night, someone knocked on my window. I reached for the tire iron under my seat. "It's me," Claire whispered. I didn't open the door. Tears streamed down her face. "Please, just listen." I stepped out, keeping distance between us like a wound that might reopen. "You lied to me," I said. "Yes, but not about loving you." She pulled out a small flash drive and placed it on the hood of my car. "Everything is on this flash drive. Your mother's work, Daniel's real plan, and the reason I was sent into your life." "Sent?" I repeated bitterly. "She saved my life," Claire said carefully. "Years ago, I owed her everything. When she knew she was going to die, she asked me to protect you. I never expected to fall in love." My anger cracked. Not shattered, cracked. "And now?" I asked. "Now he's tying up loose ends," she said, "and we're both loose ends." The weight of the truth pressed down on us. Love hadn't betrayed me, it had been weaponized. I took the flash drive. For the first time, Claire and I stood on the same side of fear. And somewhere in the city, Daniel Cross realized his favorite pawn had stopped playing. The flash drive felt heavier than it should have, like it carried not just data, but every lie that had wrapped itself around my life. Claire and I sat in the car in silence, the engine off, the world holding its breath around us. "Once we open this," I said, "there's no going back." She nodded. "There never was." We drove to an old storage unit on the edge of the city, one my mother had rented years ago under a false name. Claire had found it buried in the files. Dust coated everything inside, and the air smelled like rust and forgotten time. I plugged the flash drive into a battered laptop and waited. My mother's face appeared on the screen. She looked tired, older than I remembered, but her eyes were steady. "If you're seeing this," she said, "then I failed to keep you out of this. I'm sorry." My throat tightened. I found evidence of a private security network laundering money through humanitarian contracts. Daniel Cross is not fighting them. He's positioning himself to control them. If I disappear, he'll move faster. The video ended. My hands were shaking. Claire swallowed hard. She knew. She knew everything, I whispered. The files showed transactions, names, offshore accounts. Enough to destroy careers, maybe even governments, and enough to get anyone killed. "Daniel won't stop," I said. "He can't." Claire looked at me, fear and determination colliding in her eyes. "Then we make him think we did." The plan was simple in concept and terrifying in execution. We would leak part of the evidence, just enough to trigger internal panic, while quietly erasing Daniel's leverage. No heroes, no exposure, just disappearance. For 3 days we moved like ghosts, changing locations, burning phones, watching reflections instead of faces. Every siren made my heart race, every shadow felt intentional. In the quiet moments, love found space to breathe. "I never meant to hurt you," Claire said one night, as we lay on the floor of an empty apartment, the ceiling cracked like a map of broken roads. "I know," I said, "and I did. Trust, once broken, doesn't return whole, but it can return honest." On the 4th day, Daniel called from a blocked number. "You're running," he said, calmly. "What do you want?" I asked. "To finish this," he replied. "Meet me at the old train yard. Dawn." The line went dead. Claire grabbed my hand. "It's a trap." All meetings with him are traps. This one ends it. Dawn painted the sky gray when we arrived. The train yard stretched out like a graveyard of metal and memory. Daniel stood near a rusted carriage, hands in his pockets, perfectly at ease. "I taught you well," he said when he saw me. "You finally stopped being afraid." "I stopped trusting you," I replied. He smiled. "Same thing, really." Claire stepped forward. "It's over, Daniel. The files are already out." His eyes flicked to her, cold now, calculating. "You were always the weak link." He reached for his jacket. The sound of approaching engines cut through the tension. Headlights, multiple vehicles. Daniel froze. "You leaked it," he said, disbelief creeping into his voice. "Enough," I said. "Not everything." Sirens followed. Police, federal units. Chaos erupted in seconds. Daniel tried to run. A single shot rang out. He fell. The world slowed as officers swarmed the yard. Hands grabbed me, pushed me down, cuffed me, then released me when the truth surfaced. The reporter Claire had trusted stepped forward, badge visible, recording everything. As they took Daniel away on a stretcher, his eyes found mine. "This isn't over," he whispered. I didn't answer. Months later, the city felt different, lighter, or maybe that was just me. The case dragged on, names fell, networks collapsed quietly, without headlines. Power hates noise. Claire and I left before anyone could ask too many questions. We chose a small coastal town where the ocean erased footprints and people minded their own stories. She started teaching again. I fixed boats and learned how to breathe without checking my back. Some nights the past still knocks, but love answers first. And for the first time, that's enough.
Peace doesn't arrive all at once. It comes in fragments, small moments that test whether you're ready to stop surviving and start living. In the coastal town, morning smelled like salt and possibility. I learned the rhythm of tides the way I once learned Daniel's rules, carefully, attentively, but without fear. Claire and I didn't rush anything. Love had already been rushed enough for a lifetime. We rebuilt it slowly, with truth as the foundation this time. No secrets, no coded conversations, just honesty, even when it hurt. Some nights she woke up crying, other nights I did. We never asked each other to be strong, we just stayed. One evening, while repairing a small fishing boat, I noticed a familiar black sedan parked across the street. My hands froze. Muscle memory doesn't forget danger. "You see it too?" Claire asked quietly. I nodded. The car didn't move, didn't need to. Its presence alone was a message. That night, an envelope appeared under our door, no return address. Inside was a single photograph, my mother standing beside Daniel, years younger, both of them unaware they were being watched. On the back, one sentence was written: "Truth has a long echo." Fear returned like an old enemy who knew exactly where to strike. Daniel was gone, but the network he'd fed on wasn't dead, just wounded. "We can't run forever," I said. Claire met my eyes. Then we stopped running. The next days were heavy with decisions. We contacted the reporter again, then an investigator who still believed in consequences. Not everything, just enough, always enough. Pressure builds quietly before it breaks. The sedan disappeared, then another, then silence. Weeks passed, no threats, no shadows. I almost believed it was over, until the call came. A distorted voice, calm, familiar in its cruelty. "You should have disappeared," the voice said. "Now you'll watch someone else pay." My heart stopped. "Who are you?" A pause, then laughter. "Your father would be disappointed." The line went dead. I hadn't heard that word in years. Father. I never knew him. My mother always said some doors were better left closed. Suddenly, one had been kicked open. Digging into the past felt like tearing open an old wound. Records led to a name buried under aliases, tied to the same shadow network. A man who specialized in leverage, in people. He wasn't after money, he was after me. Claire stood beside me as the truth settled in. "They're cleaning up," she said. "Your unfinished business." For the first time since all this began, I felt something solid beneath the fear. Resolve. We set a trap using the one thing the network couldn't resist: control. A fake leak, a false identity, a meeting arranged where escape routes were limited and witnesses were many. He showed up exactly on time. Older, sharper, eyes that held no warmth. "You look like her," he said. "Your mother." I felt no curiosity, no longing, only clarity. "She tried to stop you," I replied. "She failed," he said. "So did you," I said, as lights flooded the room and voices rose from every direction. He tried to run, he always would. This time there was nowhere to go. When it was over, I didn't feel victory, I felt release. Weeks later, standing on the shore at sunset, Claire took my hand. "It's finally quiet," she said. I nodded. "And it's real." Love didn't save me by shielding me from darkness. It saved me by standing beside me while I faced it. Some stories end with justice, others end with peace. Mine ended with both. And every morning after, I woke up free. Freedom felt strange at first. Not fragile, not loud, just unfamiliar. The kind that makes you wonder what to do with your hands when they're no longer clenched into fists. The investigation faded into the background of other people's lives. Names were sealed, files locked away, and stories rewritten into something safer for public consumption. Claire and I were advised to stay quiet, To stay ordinary. We agreed without hesitation. Ordinary had become precious. Time began to behave differently. Days stretched, nights softened. I started noticing things I had ignored for years. The way the ocean breathed, the way light changed Claire's face when she smiled without fear, the way silence could finally be kind. One afternoon, while fixing an engine, I found myself laughing out loud for no reason. The sound startled me. It felt like hearing a stranger speak with my voice. Claire noticed everything. "You're coming back," she said gently that night. "I think I already did," I replied. We visited my mother's grave together on a quiet morning when the sky was clear and honest. I told her everything about the fear, the lies, the love. I thanked her for protecting me even when it cost her everything. Claire stood beside me, fingers intertwined with mine, not as a guardian this time, but as a partner, as family. "I wish you could have met her like this," I said. Claire smiled sadly. I think she knew. Some wounds never fully close. Certain sounds still made my heart race. Certain dreams still woke me up breathless. But healing isn't the absence of pain. It's learning you can survive it. One night, as rain tapped softly against the windows, Claire rested her head on my chest. "Do you ever regret not exposing everything?" she asked. I thought about it, about power, about truth, about how many people would have been crushed under the weight of a war they never chose. "No," I said. "We chose life." She kissed me slowly, like a promise kept. Months turned into a year. We built routines, traditions, a future that didn't require aliases or exits planned in advance. I learned that love isn't proven by sacrifice alone, but by staying when staying is safe. On the anniversary of my mother's death, I wrote a letter and burned it by the sea. The smoke carried words I no longer needed to hold. I looked at Claire, standing there with the wind in her hair, and understood something simple and true. The world will always have shadows. Danger doesn't disappear. Evil doesn't retire. But love, real love, teaches you how to live without letting fear decide who you become. I took her hand, and we walked forward, not because the past was gone, but because it no longer owned us. The mornings in the coastal town had started to feel ordinary, but I knew better. Ordinary was always temporary. Danger has a way of sneaking in through the cracks when you least expect it, and my past had taught me that peace could be fragile. Claire and I had begun restoring an old boat that had been abandoned on the pier. The smell of salt and engine oil became our therapy. Every turn of a wrench, every scrape of paint felt like reclaiming control over a world that had tried to shatter me. "You think we're really safe?" Claire asked one evening as we painted the hull together, her hand steady despite the bristles slipping occasionally. I paused. "I don't know," I said honestly. "But maybe safe isn't the point anymore. Maybe it's about being ready." She leaned back, squinting at the sunset reflecting off the water. "Ready for what?" "For life," I said. "For everything it throws at us. We can't predict it. We just face it together." It was a comforting lie, but comforting is sometimes enough. Weeks later, while walking along the pier, I noticed someone watching us. At first, I thought it was a coincidence, another tourist, perhaps, curious about the boat. But the way he lingered, the subtle way his eyes followed our movements, it was deliberate. My stomach sank. "You see him?" I asked Claire, nodding subtly toward the figure leaning against a lamppost. She followed my gaze and frowned. "Do you think, is it possible he knows?" I shook my head. "It's been months. We covered our tracks. Anyone looking would see nothing. But..." I trailed off, feeling the familiar weight of dread settle on my shoulders. That night, the wind howled against the window. The sea sounded rough, relentless.
Claire and I lay awake, ears tuned to every creak and shuffle in the house. I hate this feeling. It's like waiting for a storm that's already here. Maybe it is, I admitted. Or maybe it's just the past reminding us it's not finished yet. The next morning, the first sign appeared. A note slipped under the door, typed and precise. "You can run, but you can't forget." My pulse jumped. My hand trembled as I held it, Claire watching silently. The handwriting, or rather the typeface, was familiar, methodical, calculated. It's him, or someone like him. Claire didn't panic, she never did. Then we meet it head on, like we always do. Over the next few days, we planned, carefully, methodically. Every move was calculated, every detail scrutinized. I felt the old thrill return, the kind of adrenaline that sharpens senses and steels resolve. But this time, it wasn't just survival. It was about reclaiming life from shadows that refused to let go. When the night came, we drove to an abandoned warehouse inland, one we had scouted weeks earlier. The place was isolated, surrounded by thick woods. It smelled of dust, rust, and secrets long hidden. And there he was, older, calmer, the kind of presence that makes your skin crawl. He didn't move when we arrived. He just watched, as if measuring our courage or our fear. "You've been careful," he said, voice low and precise, "almost too careful. And you've been reckless, almost too stupid." He smiled, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "Do you think you understand what this is, Ethan? You've only scratched the surface. Your mother's curiosity, your little victories, they're just ripples in a storm that has been brewing for decades." Claire stepped forward. "Then it ends tonight." "Ends?" He laughed softly. "It never ends. You only survive, or you disappear." The night stretched, each second heavy with tension. Every rustle of leaves, every distant howl of an animal seemed amplified. The past, present, and future collided in a single unrelenting moment. And as I stood there, hand brushing Claire's, I realized something profound. Survival alone wasn't enough anymore. To truly live, we had to fight, not just for ourselves, but for the life we had dared to imagine beyond fear. The night smelled like rain and iron. The warehouse loomed around us, dark and cavernous, every shadow a possible threat. My heart pounded in my chest like it was trying to escape, but I didn't move. Claire squeezed my hand, grounding me. I breathed in, counting to 10. Twice. 3 times. "You think you can control everything?" I shouted, trying to mask the tremor in my voice. "We survived your games before. We're not afraid anymore." He smiled, cold and deliberate. "Control isn't about fear. Control is about inevitability. You're part of something bigger than you know." I took a step forward. "Not anymore. Tonight, it ends." Claire whispered my name softly. "Be careful." The tension snapped like a wire. He lunged. Reflex took over. I dodged instinctively, the old training from Daniel and every lesson my mother had unknowingly taught me kicking in. We moved together, synchronized without thinking, each of us instinctively protecting the other. Every corner, every stack of crates, every shadow became a weapon. He was fast, too fast, but desperation is stronger than speed. We ducked behind a metal container as he swung toward us. I grabbed a rusted pipe from the floor, swinging it to distract him. Claire's voice echoed, "Ethan, now!" I understood instantly. She had seen an opening, one I hadn't. I ran forward, hitting him squarely with the pipe. He stumbled back. I didn't give him a second to recover. Every ounce of anger, fear, and grief was concentrated in that strike. He fell, cursing under his breath. But I knew he wasn't done yet. None of them ever are. Claire and I ran, ducking into the shadows, the warehouse echoing with his curses and threats. Outside, the forest embraced us.
We ran without looking back, the rain soaking us, washing away the grime of months of fear. We didn't stop until we reached the small lighthouse on the cliff, the one we had discovered weeks ago. Its light cut through the darkness like a beacon. We collapsed against each other, soaked, shivering, but alive. Claire's voice trembled as she whispered, "Is it over?" I shook my head slowly. I don't know if anything is ever truly over, but we survived, together. Her tears fell on my shoulder. I held her tighter than ever. The weight of months, the fear, the loss, the love, the betrayal, compressed into this moment of fragile peace. The next morning, the sun broke through the storm clouds. Light spilled over the ocean. It glinted off the water and danced across Claire's hair. For the first time in a long time, the world felt like ours. Not Daniel's, not the shadow networks, not even the ghosts of the past. We returned to the town quietly. No fanfare, no announcements. Life had a different rhythm now. Every smile, every laugh, every mundane moment felt extraordinary because it was ours. Weeks later, I finally opened the last of my mother's letters. One was addressed to me, written in her careful hand. "Ethan, strength isn't about fighting alone. It's about knowing when to trust and when to love. The world will always try to take more than it gives. Never let fear steal what makes you human. Live fully, love boldly. Mom." I pressed it to my chest, and Claire wrapped her arms around me. No words were needed. For the first time, I understood. The danger, the lies, the shadows, they didn't define us. We did. And in that quiet, storm-laden morning, I vowed to never let fear dictate my life again. We had survived, we had loved, and we had finally found freedom.
The days after the warehouse were quiet, almost eerily so. The town had returned to its slow rhythm, gulls screaming over the pier, waves licking the shore. But Claire and I knew the world beyond our little sanctuary still existed, brimming with shadows and old debts. That didn't matter anymore. Not really. We were alive. We were together. We began small. Morning walks, fixing the boat, buying groceries, laughing at ordinary things. Ordinary felt sacred. And yet, the past had a way of lingering in corners. Every night I found myself replaying moments, the flash of Daniel's eyes, the note under the door, the distant call of the stranger who claimed to be my father. Claire noticed my silence. She didn't prod, she never did. Instead, she would slide a hand into mine, or brush my hair back from my forehead. Little gestures that reminded me the world could still be gentle. "You're thinking again," she said one evening as we sat on the lighthouse balcony, watching the horizon bleed pink and gold. I exhaled. "Just remembering, wondering if peace like this is real." "It is," she whispered, "because we're here, together, and nothing can take that away." I wanted to believe her. I really did. In the following weeks, we explored more of the town. Local cafes became familiar, neighbors began to smile at us, and the lighthouse keeper, an old man named Henry, treated us like family. We built routines around him, our boat, and the ocean. Slowly, my nightmares began to fade, replaced with dreams that felt alive, full of hope instead of terror. One afternoon, while painting the boat's hull, Claire laughed at me for spilling paint across her shoes. I stopped, startled by how easy it felt to laugh back. The simplicity of the moment hit me. For months, we had survived chaos and deception, and now this, messy paint, sun on our shoulders, the smell of salt, felt like victory. "You know," she said, nudging me, "we've earned this. Every drop of rain, every sleepless night, every terrified heartbeat led us here." I smiled, though my chest still ached with memory. "We have, and I won't forget any of it." One night, after a storm, the lighthouse flickered under the rain. Claire and I stayed awake, listening to the waves battering the cliffs. I held her close, and she rested her head on my chest. "I'm scared sometimes," she admitted softly, "that something will come for us again, that the past won't let us go." I kissed her hair. "Then we face it, like we always have, together. We survived him. We survived everything. We can survive anything." Tears slid down her cheeks. I didn't speak. There was nothing to say. The silence said everything. The bond, the love, the shared understanding that life could be cruel, but also breathtakingly beautiful. Months turned into a year. Our little house by the shore became home. We planted flowers Claire had saved from an old garden back home. I taught her how to fish properly. She taught me how to slow down, to notice the small things. And slowly, we stopped counting the shadows. Slowly, we stopped expecting threats. Slowly, we began to live fully. On the anniversary of my mother's death, we lit a lantern and released it into the sky, letting it drift over the ocean. Claire held my hand tightly. "For your mother," she whispered. "For all of it," I said. "The pain, the fear, the love, everything that brought us here." We watched the lantern float until it became a tiny dot, a beacon in the dark. And in that moment, I realized something essential. Survival isn't the same as living. But love makes living possible, even after the darkest nights. I looked at Claire, at the town, at the endless ocean. My past was still there, like a shadow at the edge of the world, but it no longer controlled me. It couldn't, because for the first time, I wasn't running, I wasn't hiding. I was alive, fiercely and completely, with someone who had chosen me as fiercely as I had chosen her. And that was enough.
The mornings had a new rhythm. The ocean no longer whispered threats. It hummed a lullaby. Claire and I would sit on the porch with coffee, letting the sun chase the shadows from the day before. I noticed details I had ignored for years, the way her smile creased at the corners of her eyes, the subtle laugh that emerged even when she tried to hide it, the calm steadiness she brought to a life that had been chaos for so long. One day, as we were repairing the sails of the boat, she paused and looked at me. "You know," she said, "we've been through everything, and somehow we're stronger." I wiped sweat from my brow and nodded. "Because we had to be, and because we had each other." She laughed softly. "Do you ever think about the past?" "All the time," I admitted, "but not with fear anymore, with understanding, with gratitude. Every shadow taught me something. Every heartbreak taught me resilience, and every moment with you reminds me what life is worth." She leaned against me, letting the salt air mingle with our quiet. "I don't know how we got so lucky, after everything." "It wasn't luck," I said. "It was choice. Choosing to live, choosing to love, choosing to stand up even when the world wanted us down." We worked in silence for a while, letting the ocean speak. It had become our rhythm, our measure of time, our witness to survival. Weeks later, a letter arrived for me. No return address. The envelope was thick, heavy. I opened it cautiously. Inside was a single page, handwritten. "Ethan, the past will always whisper, but the present is yours. Live it boldly. From Mom." I held it close to my chest. Claire came behind me, wrapping her arms around me from behind. "She's proud," she whispered. I closed my eyes, feeling the weight lift from my shoulders. For years, I had carried fear like armor. Now, I let it go, letting love fill the spaces it had once occupied. That night, we walked along the cliffs, hands entwined, the stars reflected in the ocean below. "Do you ever worry?" Claire asked. "Sometimes," I said, "but I don't let it rule me. The only thing I care about is right here, right now. You, us, this life." She smiled, resting her head against my shoulder. "Then we're unstoppable." And in that quiet, under the vast sky, I realized something profound. Survival had taught me resilience. Danger had taught me vigilance.
But love had taught me courage. Courage to face life fully, to trust, to hope, and to feel again. It was a lesson hard-earned, but invaluable. And as the waves whispered below, I made a silent vow. No matter what came next, we would meet it together.
The first light of dawn stretched across the ocean, painting the waves gold and silver. Claire and I sat on the porch, wrapped in blankets, sipping coffee and listening to the world wake up. For the first time in years, it felt like our lives were truly ours. No threats, no shadows, just the quiet rhythm of the sea and the warmth of each other. I thought back to the warehouse, to Daniel, to the strangers who had tried to manipulate me, to the messages that had threatened my sanity. Every heartbeat, every night spent trembling, every tear had led to this moment. And for the first time, I could see it not as pain, but as proof that I had survived everything that tried to break me. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder. Do you ever imagine what our lives would have been if the past had been different? I finished for her. Sometimes, but I don't dwell on it, because this life we've built is worth everything we lost. She kissed my cheek softly. I'm glad you're here. I hugged her tighter. Me too, more than anything. Later that day, we walked along the cliffs with the boat tied behind us. The smell of salt, the sharp tang of fresh paint, and the whisper of waves felt like a symphony. We laughed at our clumsy steps, the uneven tide, and the little mistakes we made. Life had become ordinary in the best possible way. That evening, as the sun set, I wrote in my journal, not about fear, not about shadows, not about danger, just about love, about surviving, about what it meant to hold someone close and know that no matter what storms came, we would face them together. Claire leaned her head against my shoulder. You've changed, she said softly. Yes, I admitted. I've learned that life isn't about avoiding pain. It's about finding someone to share it with, and someone to share love with, and someone who makes surviving worth it. She smiled, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears. Then we're done surviving, right? I nodded. Done surviving. Now we live. We stood together at the cliff's edge, the ocean stretching endlessly before us. The waves crashed and foamed, wild and untamed, but we felt steady, because no matter what came, we had each other. And as night fell, stars scattering across the sky, I finally let myself believe that love, real, unwavering, and human, had saved me. Not from the world, not from danger, but from living in fear. Claire squeezed my hand. So, what now? I smiled. Now we keep living, we keep loving, and we never look back. For the first time, I didn't feel haunted by the past. I felt alive, fully, completely, and unafraid. The ocean whispered, the stars watched, and we walked home together, two hearts finally free.